Hello everyone, I'm Steve Wyss. I'm joined by Kevin Harper, and this is the All Sports Betting Podcast Cricket World Cup previews. Well, we've come to the end of the road in terms of the group games. Kev, last day of the group fixtures. It's been a long ride, my old friend, hasn't it?
Certainly has, mate. Yep, games 44 and 45 are upon us. Been a good road though, hasn't it? And it got it got a whole lot better, didn't it, on Friday? Babar Azam's outright came in by a good 200 or so runs, and we are very much in the line for a 100-1 place payout with the Fizz, aren't we? Yeah, 2 fifers to finish the tournament. He scooted past everyone apart from Mitchell Stark. Yeah, and it's going to take something special for him not to place now. So that's happy days. We deserve something out of them Bangladesh bets. We were really, really lucky with really, really unlucky with Bangladesh themselves. So it's nice that we've got something out of the faith that we put into them.
Yeah, it should be about a 25-1 winner, depending on what place odds you got there, depending what bookmaker you're with. But hopefully he can hang on. I think he should do, unless we get a real freak. Certain individuals doing really well. Still an outside chance. Pat Cummins could place as well, I guess, in that market for us. So, on to the last two games. And we start, we're going to do it in one pod here. We've got Sri Lanka against India at Headingley and Australia against South Africa at Old Trafford. So a day for the north of England. The two Rose counties going battle in the venues anyway, but let's start with Sri Lanka, India at Headingley. I mean, they are dead rubbers to a degree, but it's like you said last night, there's a real big advantage to win the group, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a massive advantage.
Because New Zealand look like, well, pray for anyone right now. You certainly want to be faced. I'm not saying you're going to have a bye in the semi-finals, but it's a hell of a lot of a fucking easier match in it than England. So
it's not just that, is it? It's also on Tuesday. So, with the final on Sunday, you don't really want to be playing Thursday. Then the rain comes on Thursday. I'm not suggesting it will. I've not looked at the long-term forecast just yet. But were it to rain on Thursday and they end up playing that game on Friday, then they're still playing on Friday at 6:30. By the time they get down to London, it's the early hours of Saturday morning. Saturday to recover, and then they play in the final on Sunday. It's not ideal. So there's a massive advantage for playing in that first semi-final, not just because you're playing New Zealand, who look the weakest of the four teams in the semi-finals by some distance, but logistically it's so much easier too.
I mean, we look at that second game in a minute, Australia against South Africa, but South Africa are quite a prideful nation. They're going to give it a good go. India will want to put a little bit of pressure on Australia, won't they, by getting the victory against Sri Lanka? And both are a short price here. I don't know what the double would pay exactly, but India have looked a little bit, well, I don't know what the word is really, a little bit below par at times of late. But they're not going to get beaten by Sri Lanka, are they?
Well, we said that about England, didn't we? So, and that was on this very ground as well, wasn't it? I think we kind of highlighted after that beating that Sri Lanka do enjoy Headingley, don't they? It's kind of their venue. They'd beaten England there in a Test match as well. So it's India's first taste of Headingley, isn't it? And if there's one thing we've seen in this tournament, it does take a little bit of getting used to, doesn't it? Pakistan never really settled there against Afghanistan. That might have been the pressure of having to win the game and things like that. But they still didn't really settle. And to be fair, the West Indies never really got off to a lightning start against Afghanistan, did they? I know Pooran eventually got them into a decent position in that game, combined with the hitters down the order. But to start off with, they were a little bit lax. Chris Gayle didn't look himself, so it does take a little bit of getting used to. I wouldn't be overly surprised if India bat first and get themselves into a little bit of an early hole, but I mean, I don't see India not winning the game. But I think, Sri Lanka have done enough in this tournament now to be respected and to be taken seriously at the very least. I've been guilty of writing them off heavily throughout a lot of these podcasts. And, at the very least in this tournament, what they've done is they've made me respect them and kind of changed my opinion on just how bad they are.
Yeah, they caught me out a few days ago at Chesley Street as well. If I was to take a bet for this game myself, I'd be looking at back in the under sixes. Just don't see either team as a really big hitters. The power guys haven't really got going. But when there's nothing really too much at stake for certainly one team, then I think anything can happen, can't it? You're going to only take one bet in this game. It's Hardik Pandya's performance line. What is it at? And why do you see him having a good game?
47.5 it's at. I see him having a good game for a couple of reasons, really. I think he'll bat, first and foremost. I think India will send him in. And he's gone pretty well with the bat, hasn't he? He's got 3 lots of innings in the 40s with the bat, including that knock against England, which was probably a decent enough knock when you think that Dhoni was just dead at the other end at the time. But also with the ball, if there's one thing I have seen at Headingley in this tournament, it's that them changes of pace off the ball, them cutters, they're really working really well, aren't they? Carlos Brathwaite bowled an awful lot of them the other day, and they weren't even getting to the wicketkeeper. And when you think of the pace that the West Indies have got for a ball not to get anywhere near to the wicketkeeper, it kind of suggests that the cutters into the pitch really work. That's what Sri Lanka did to get rid of England earlier in the competition, and obviously Afghanistan were all over Pakistan with their spin, weren't they, and their slower pace bowlers. It was only when the captain brought himself on that it kind of got a bit easier. And that India-Bangladesh game on Tuesday, Pandya bowled an awful lot of cutters. In fact, I don't think he bowled a quick ball after about the second over of his spell. He bowled a hell of a lot of cutters. The Bangladesh batsman couldn't get him off the square, which is unusual because usually he's one of those bowlers that love to face his own bowling. And he took 3 wickets in that game. I wouldn't be surprised if he does likewise here. I wouldn't be surprised if India rest a seam bowler. I've got to say that. Maybe Jasprit Bumrah to rest him. He had a pretty heavy workload in the IPL. They're through whatever. I think most people are going to see them finishing second, whether they win, lose or draw in this. So it would make perfect sense if he had a rest. They've got, Pandya to play as third team, and they've got Kuldeep Yadav to come back in if they want to. So yeah, I just think Pandya is going to have a really big involvement in the game. His pace off the ball bowling could be the most effective bowling for India, as well as the spinner. So I fancy he's going to take some wickets. I think they'll shove him into bat because he's the guy who finishes the innings, and he's doing it better than Dhoni. So I think he'll go above Dhoni. If they bat first, then they want someone to finish the innings. So, all things being equal, when you throw the 3 scoring methods together, I don't think 47.5 is necessarily beyond him.
Yeah, the surfaces at Headingley so far haven't been that great, if you ask me. They've been different to what you'd expect here too. I think you can probably tell. Am I right in saying that these pitches are ICC regulated in the World Cup?
Advised rather than regulated. It's still the normal groundsman.
They've been a lot drier. They've been really almost too dry at Headingley, actually. Obviously, you can tell the ground drains well these days. It
needs to as well, doesn't it?
They've seen really dry right from the first one. I think too much grass was taken off it, really. But I don't think it's going to play that great. I don't think it'll play horrible, but interesting game. And you think India will? I mean, you don't see a surprise, but Sri Lanka are no mugs at the moment, are they?
Yeah, no, I don't see a surprise, but there is that clear weakness in the India middle order, isn't there? That needs to be sorted out if they're going to go all the way in this competition. They've acknowledged that they've got the problem by dropping Kedar Yadav in the last game. They didn't really finish the innings much better, did they? I mean, the big problem's Dhoni. They need rid, but that's not going to happen for the rest of this tournament. So in an ideal world for India, someone from 4, 5 or 6 not called Hardik Pandya finds some form, and that'll be an ideal outing for them. That's the only concern, isn't it? If Kohli or Sharma goes early to this new ball and they get themselves in a hole, have they got someone who's going to get themselves out of a pickle?
So 2 hours later at Old Trafford, Australia against South Africa kicks off, and we're in a position where both games will be playing simultaneously, if I can get that out of my mouth. And we've got to let's just presume India win. and win reasonably quickly, let's say. There's going to be a stage in that game, Australia, South Africa, where the Aussies are going to know they need to win if they want that top spot position. I mean, on the face of it, they shouldn't they? I mean, South Africa have been pretty poor in this tournament. The only time they've had success has been against some of the poorer sides. Australia look really good. I mean, but there's a history between these two teams. I mean, South Africa are going to give their absolute all here. They've got a very prideful nation. They don't think it's going to roll over. And they do have some weapons that you've got to be careful of. So is there a chance of a banana skin for Australia, do you think?
Yeah, there always is, isn't there, when there's a lack of intensity on the line, but I don't see it. I think this Australia side are motivated to go the whole way, aren't they? As long as they've got no sandpaper in their pockets, I'm sure this one will go fairly smoothly. Of course, this is one of it's the first meeting that Steve Smith and David Warner have been back in the side since Sandpaper Gate, so that might add an intensity to the contest. 20 years ago, since arguably the best ODI ever played in England between these two in the semi-final of the World Cup. Obviously, South Africa came out on the wrong end of that, didn't they? So they haven't really got great memories of they against Australia, and I don't think they're going to improve here. They've probably got some internal motivation, to be fair, South Africa. They're obviously going to face a right hiding when they get home, as this campaign's been shite. But also, Imran Tahir has been a decent servant to them. This is his last ODI. JP Duminy, in the start of his career, was a pretty decent servant to them. He's gone on 2 or 3 years too long, but it's his last ODI as well. So they'll probably want to go out on a high for them. And of course, if they do upset the team that could be world champions in 8 days' time, then at least they've got something that they can go back home with and, show that they've shown their worth, so to speak. But the big problem I think they've got is, throughout the tournament, we've highlighted their batsmen. And if anything at Old Trafford, you need to score runs because, it is a batting paradise. We've seen that quite a few times. Scores here are pretty high. Hasn't been a game here for a while, so I expect the scores here to be very, very, very high. And have South Africa got the batting might to go up against that Australia seam attack? They might have had if Australia were resting players, but Justin Langer's confirmed they're not resting any seamers just for the sake of resting them. He hasn't declared that any of them have got any injuries, so we've got to think that it's going to be Cummins, Behrendorff, Stark, and I just don't see how South Africa repel all of them. If there is an area in for South Africa, it's that Glenn Maxwell sounds like a fitness doubt. These Australian nets are dangerous things to be in because Warner's taken out a net bowler, hasn't he, earlier in the tournament, sent him to hospital. And in the last couple of days, Shaun Marsh has gone home because he broke an arm in the nets, and Glenn Maxwell's taken a beating in there as well. He went to hospital, but a scan hasn't revealed anything, but you wouldn't think they're going to risk him 3 days before their semi-final, potentially 3 days before their semi-final. So he could be a gap that needs to be filled, not necessarily for his batting, because he hasn't really fired yet, has he? But he has been an effective 5th, 6th bowler, and Old Trafford does turn the longer the game goes on. So if Australia are bowling second, they might miss Max, and they're certainly going to miss Maxwell in the field.
He's been brilliant in the field, hasn't he? One of the best fielders in the tournament.
Yeah, they'll certainly miss that. His replacement is it would have been Shaun Marsh, but they've already peppered him and got rid of him. It's likely to be Peter Hanscom, who is a wicket keeper by trade, so nowhere near as good in the field, and certainly nowhere near as good with the bat either. So that's one area of weakness. But on the flip side of that, all they really have to do, Australia, is send Alex Carey up the innings. They're in danger of wasting him. Although he's playing some brilliant innings at 7, I'd just like to see him go, maybe even go up to 5, have that extra 10 or 15 overs to turn that 50 and 60 and 70 that he's been getting into 90s, 100s, 110s, and that would really make Australia an even stronger outfit than they currently are. So to summarise it all, South Africa's weakness with the bat is likely to be the defining factor here because Stark is on fire, Cummins is on fire. They're both going to love the pace and bounce in this track. And even if he doesn't play, Maxwell has already spent time at Lancashire this season in the one-day tournament. So he'll know all about Old Trafford. He'll be able to advise advise his Australian teammates what they need to do to be successful here. And whether India win, whether they lose or whether they draw, I'm expecting Australia to win this They're the best team in the tournament, Australia, and I think they'll go out and show that.
I mean, the thing is, though, South Africa's batting has not been that great in this tournament, but surely then the one thing they would want is to be batting at Old Trafford. It's a real road these days. Yeah, you get a bit of pain to bounce, but it comes on the bat nicely. Is this the sort of place where the strength of Australia can be a bit negated potentially?
No, I don't see it that way, really. It is a place where the strength of Australia can be negated in that, like you say, the ball does come onto the bat, but it comes onto the bat at Southampton, and South Africa put in a couple of shocking performances down there. Comes onto the bat at the Oval, where they played England and Bangladesh, and they never really batted particularly well in those games. I don't think it's a problem of conditions for their batting. As I've said throughout the tournament, there is just not enough of it. I think Pretorius was down at 7 on the scorecard, wasn't he? Up at Durham against Sri Lanka last time out, wasn't it? But luckily for South Africa, Sri Lanka just stalled in the middle of their innings. They went nowhere, and the run chase was pretty easy. But you've got to think Stark's going to get into this top order, and if it does, there's just not enough. You're looking at 280 to win the game. South Africa, apart from that game against Bangladesh, where most of their runs came when they were already dead and buried, I just can't see them scoring those kind of runs against this kind of bowling attack. I don't think they've got the number of batsmen. I don't think they've got the glue because Hashim Amla's not in good enough form. I think the batsmen that they've got are all what I call bits and pieces innings makers rather than the genuine 80s, 90s, 100s that Australia are full of. And ultimately, that'll be the difference.
I mean, the one bet you got for this game is over 14.5 wickets. If we give Australia 10 of those, as we're expecting them to have, can South Africa get 5 wickets in this game? I mean, it'd be more of a concern, I suppose, if, Australia were chasing a low score, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. It would, without a doubt. Yeah, Rabada will be pumped up to go well here, won't he? Morris. Imran's here in his final game. As I said, Old Trafford does turn. Australia don't play spin particularly well. Pretorius bowled pretty well, to be fair to him, didn't he, against Sri Lanka? A lot of cutters, a lot of pace off the ball. I'm missing a bowler, but he's obviously not great. If I can't, Pekla hit or miss, isn't he? To be fair to him, but yeah, there's enough in this attack, and if you get through the 2 openers, the rest of them haven't had an awful lot of time in the middle, have they? That's been one of the problems. Finch and Warner have been so good that the rest of them probably, they've not had a lot of time. And of course, if Maxwell's not there as well, they've got someone playing their first game of the tournament. So if they get through one of Finch or Warner quickly and they get Khawaja out in the middle, then they've got an end exposed, haven't they? And the likes of Rabada, Tahir, 1 or 2 others can get stuck in. Yeah, I think South Africa can get 5 wickets on here. Partly because Australia do gift some wickets away with some flimsy shots as well, don't they?
Yeah, they do. In the order they do, don't they? Especially if you can get, even, if Australia bat first here and, there's something like 4 wickets down after 40 overs, they'd probably lose some stupid ones, won't they?
They've not finished their innings off well at all, have they? And actually, Carey's done an awful lot of batting at 7. So that says to me that they lose wickets quite regularly. Like you say, if they're batting first, they collapse in the last 10 overs. I think all things being equal, I expect 2 good bowling attacks to get 15 wickets for us.
Yeah, okay. Well, 2 bets for the game then. Hardik Pandya, on the day, not the game. Hardik Pandya performance in the India match and over 14.5 wickets in the Australia-South Africa game. Okay, well, that's the end of the group phase. We're going to be back to preview semi-finals. We know England are in action at Edgbaston on Tuesday. We don't know against who yet. Probably India. Thursday. Sorry, that one. Tuesday's at Old Trafford then.
Yep.
So England have had quite a lot of time off, haven't they?
We know New Zealand will be in that game.
Yeah. So, New Zealand against someone on Tuesday. Then the reserve day is Wednesday, isn't it? And then Thursday for England against someone at Edgbaston. So, we'll be back in very good time. Hoping to get the podcasts out for those games a good 36 hours before the matches, so you can get you into those bets early. But from the group stage, that's the end of it. Enjoyed it very much, and we'll be back for the 3 really big games next week.
Yep, been good so far, Steve, and the best still to come.
See you around, mate.